The only station that delves deeper and unearths the stories the main show doesn't want you to see is Star Gossip America. Welcome back. The young pair won over hearts all across the world. With their kids, Jen Arnold and Bill Clay appeared to be the epitome of love, resiliency, and the victory of family over hardship. However, a harsher truth started to emerge behind the cameras and behind the happy family photographs. Fans did not anticipate this narrative. It tells of addiction, despair, and the agonizing disintegration of a family that millions once admired. Will Klein developed a serious drug and internet gambling addiction. His drug addiction got worse every day. Jen Arnold, Will Klein's mother, eventually recognized the situation and told the others. Will Klein sought $5,000 from his father, Bill Klein, to support his drug and gambling addictions. Will Klein acted violently against his father after Bill Klein refused to give him the money. Jen Arnold, his mother, was mentally heartbroken by what her son did. Confidential sources claim that Will Klein had gambled online and accrued a $50,000 debt. A lawsuit was brought against him when he neglected to pay the loan. He was charged with neglecting to pay the $50,000 debt and abusing his parents. Will Klein was found guilty by the court and given a sentence of 5 months in prison with required rehabilitation and a $55,000 fine. Write a script for a YouTube video in more than 13,000 words regarding the Jen Arnold, star of Little Couple, and Will Klein, son of Bill Klein. Will Klein developed a serious drug and internet gambling addiction. His drug addiction got worse every day. Jen Arnold, Will Klein's mother, eventually saw the problem and told the rest of the family to help pay for his drug and gambling addictions. Will Klein made a $5,000 demand on Bill Klein, his father. Will Klein acted violently against his father after Bill Klein refused to give him the money. Jen Arnold, his mother, was psychologically distraught by her son's behavior. Confidential sources claim that Will Klein had gambled online and accrued a $50,000 debt. A lawsuit was brought against him when he neglected to pay the loan. He was charged with neglecting to pay the $50,000 debt and abusing his parents. Will Klein was found guilty by the court and given a sentence of 5 months in prison with required rehabilitation and a $55,000 fine. This story in the manner of a documentary will walk you through the journey, the ascent and fall, the legal disputes, the jail term, and the grueling rehabilitation process. It's a human story as well as a warning. A reminder that every public persona conceals a personal reality. So, let's begin. This is the unseen tale of Will Klein, the young couple's son, and the terrible effects of addiction on a seemingly impenetrable family. Quietly, it began. Seldom does addiction make a big announcement. Instead, it slips in, camouflaged as innocent experimentation. The initial stages of drug use looked nearly undetectable to Will Klein. A shift in mood there, a late night here. Like many families, his parents were aware, but they believed it would only last a short while. Jen Arnold remembers the small changes. Will exhibit signs of irritability, spend more time alone, and withdraw from family dinners. His once bright personality faltered, his focus faltered, and his grades declined. Ever the optimist, Bill Klein thought his son will recover. Addiction, however, had already taken root. The medications offered a way out. The pressures of growing up in the spotlight were borne by them. The expectations that come with belonging to a well-known family were dulled by them. But they also generated dependency. What started out as sporadic use developed into a necessity. Online gambling emerged as a vice alongside drugs. Initially, there were only games, poker apps, and sports betting websites. But before long, he was overcome by the exhilaration of victory and the crushing anguish of defeat. Gambling evolved from a pastime to an obsession. Something was revealed to Jen by her mother instincts. Was incorrect. Gently approaching Will, she inquired about his well-being. He dismissed her, saying he was all right. However, the secrecy grew and the lies multiplied. Stillness breeds addiction, and Will's stillness grew unbearable. There were the first indications. missed payments, inexplicable absences, and unpredictable conduct. However, denial played a role, as it does in many families. They wished to think their son was all right. They wanted to think that it could be fixed by love alone. Addiction rarely comes alone. Drug use was just one aspect of Clay's situation. The other half was gambling, a silent predator that infiltrated his life through his computers and phone's flashing screens. At first, it appeared harmless. Digital casinos, sports betting apps, and online poker games provided thrills, an adrenaline rush, and the appearance of control. It was only a method to kill time, Will told himself, and it was enjoyable. However, the excitement of winning quickly turned into an addiction, and the sadness of losing only made him want to play more. It was a silent but unrelenting slide. Nights stretched longer as Will sat by himself, staring at the television and making more wagers to cover losses. His parents observed his growing disengagement from family life, his weariness, and his irritation. But unlike drugs, gambling is invisible. Just figures on a screen and money vanishing from accounts, no scent, no gimmick. Jin Arnold started to notice the warning flags, including Will's persistent secrecy, mysterious withdrawals, and disappearing money. Protective and pragmatic, Bill Clay approached his son and inquired as to where the money was leaving. Will retreated, claiming it was not a serious matter. However, debts were mounting behind closed doors. Gambling and drug use combined to create a hazardous cycle. Gambling gave him false optimism and rekindled his sorrow after the medications had dulled it. Drugs masked the despair when his gambling losses devastated him. Every habit fueled the others, keeping Will in a vicious cycle that got tighter every day. His disappearance was noticed by friends. Family get-togethers grew tense. Will's gloom eclipsed his once bright demeanor. Loneliness and swings. Will's quiet turned into a barrier separating him from the people he loved most because addiction flourishes in concealment. Initially, the decline into gambling was not dramatic. No abrupt fall, no flashing sirens. It was deadly, steady, and gradual. Will was already drowning in debt by the time Jin and Bill recognized the extent of his fixation. Resilience had always been a defining characteristic of parenthood for Jin Arnold. She had to deal with health issues, work demands, and the particular duty of bringing up kids in the spotlight. But nothing prepared her for the moment she discovered her son Will was slipping into a world she could not control. For months, the signals had been mounting. Something more serious than adolescent rebellion was indicated by his inconsistent moods, his concealment, and his inexplicable withdrawals from family accounts. Jin's instincts informed her the truth long before she voiced it aloud. Addiction was out of the question. It was true. One night, Jin noticed that she was staring at her kid across the dinner table. His gaze was far away. His answers were curt. He hardly touched his dinner. The warmth that previously distinguished their family dinners had been replaced by tension so thick it was stifling. At that moment, she realized she could not be silent any longer. Late at night, Jin shared her anxieties in hushed tones with her husband, Bill. Jin's voice shook with confidence, but Bill hoped their son could make things better. Whispering, "He's not just experimenting," she said. She was devastated to learn, "He's addicted, and if we don't act now, we could lose him." As a doctor, Jin had provided families with compassionate and resilient guidance during times of difficulty. She was the mother in difficulty today, though. The professional distance she had developed during her work broke down under the weight of maternal worry as she saw her own child fall apart. She started to realize how extensive Will's gaming was. The charges on the credit card bills were astounding. Statements made online disclosed transactions that occurred late at night. In online casinos, thousands of dollars were lost. Although the gaming depleted their income and damaged their trust, the medications did take away his suffering. As Jin pieced together the reality, her heart crushed. Their family was caught in the undertow, and her kid was ensnared in a destructive cycle. She was aware that she needed to urge the other members of the family to face reality head-on. However, it felt betraying to consider disclosing Will's hardships. She was aware, however, that shame was less deadly than silence. Her son was being killed by secrecy, which feeds addiction. Weeping, Jin made the decision to stand up, to unite the family, and to confront the tempest that was engulfing them. One evening, when Will Klein confronted his father with a demand that would permanently alter the family dynamic, the tension within the Klein household reached a breaking point. It wasn't a plea for financial assistance for a project, schoolwork, or even a loan to pay for necessities. It was a demand, acute, urgent, and disturbing. Will requested $5,000. He covered it up with evasive justifications, but he knew why. But the truth was indisputable to Jin and Bill. The money was used to fuel his addictions rather than to survive. Bill Klein, a guy noted for his patience and solid resolve, listened closely as his son prodded him. Will's eyes were restless, and his tone was demanding. Although he presented the demand as necessary, there was desperation behind the words. "Why do you need this?" was the obvious question that Bill asked. "Money?" Will sidestepped, and became more furious. Will became enraged when Bill refusing to support his son's harmful behaviors. He spoke up. He became hostile instead of pleading in his body language. Anger and resentment abruptly broke the father-son relationship, which had previously been based on love and trust. Jin Arnold watched in dread as the altercation took place. She was devastated to see her husband, who had always looked out for their family, now standing defenseless against the violence of their own child. In addition to being monetary, the demand for money was also an emotional battle, a test of limits, and a sobering reminder of how far their son had fallen due to addiction. Will became enraged. He said that his father had betrayed him, failed to comprehend, and refused to help him when he most needed it. However, Bill was aware of the reality. The cycle would only become worse if you gave in. Even though it felt like rejection, refusing was an act of love. The dispute caused wounds. Bill endured the burden of shame, wondering whether his reluctance had caused his son to drift more away. Devastated, Jen had to decide whether to save her son or protect her spouse. And Will, driven deeper into the darkness of addiction by anger and desperation. This was a pivotal event in time. There was more to the $5,000 demand than just money. The conflict between love and devastation, the growing divide between parent and kid, and the agonizing fact that addiction had turned their family into a battleground. Once a place of joy and fortitude, the Klein household now reverberated with strife, and the storm was only getting started. The Klein household had already been rocked by the $5,000 demand. However, the consequences were even more disastrous. When Bill Klein held firm against his son's request, refusing to fund the dangerous cycle of drugs and gambling, Will's frustration burst into aggression. It started with words. His father was the target of scathing, accusatory remarks. Will said that Bill had betrayed him, of abandoning him when he needed help, of failing him. Jin Arnold had never heard the malice in his voice before. The youngster she had loved and nurtured suddenly talked with an anger that was almost unrecognizable. Despite his intense pain, Bill made an effort to maintain composure. He told his son that saying no was sometimes a necessary part of love. That encouraging his habits will just destroy him further. But Will was past listening. His view had been warped by his addiction, leading him to believe that his father's rejection was cruelty rather than kindness. The altercation intensified. Will's body language became more menacing, and his tone became louder. He paces the room, slams doors, and lashes out with hurtful comments. Although Bill refused to back down, the emotional cost was high. Being attacked by the child he loved was an experience unlike any other for a father who had always been his son's protector. Jin stared in dread as the two most significant men in her life clashed, her heart aching. She could see the pain in Bill's eyes, the despair in Will's, and felt ripped apart by her unfeasible situation. She had to oppose her son in order to defend her spouse. She ran the danger of destroying her family in order to protect her son. Beyond the yelling, the violence left wounds. The trust was shattered. Once based on shared moments and laughter, the father-son bond now carried the burden of betrayal and rage. Bill kept asking himself questions. Had he not been a good father? Was it the appropriate decision for him to refuse? Or had it driven Will more into the shadows? The encounter signaled a risky change for Will. In his own mind, his rage justified what he did. He felt alone, abandoned, and misunderstood. And in that seclusion, addiction tightened its grasp even farther. The family had been rocked by the altercation between Will and his father, but the full scope of the situation had not yet been revealed. Jen Arnold had been feeling for weeks that something more serious than the drugs was hiding beneath the surface. More damaging than the yelling altercations. The family's discovery of the startling truth validated their suspicion. Will had used internet gambling to accrue a $50,000 debt. It started with tiny losses that were concealed by sports betting apps and online casinos. However, escalation is what makes gaming thrive. Will became more determined to win after every setback. Every victory gave him hope that he could bounce back, but every victory was overshadowed by another crushing loss. The numbers increased until they were unachievable, and the cycle never ended. To disregard. Jen stumbled found the evidence while checking financial statements. She initially believed it to be an error, a miscalculation, or maybe a fake charge. However, when she learned more, the truth became evident. Will had drained accounts, maxed out credit cards, and borrowed money he could never repay. The total stood at $50,000, a sum that sent shockwaves through the home. Having already been hurt by his son's violence, Bill Klein now had to deal with the humiliating burden of financial betrayal. He had put in countless hours to give his family security so their kids may have the opportunities he never had. And now the careless cycle of addiction was endangering that stability. Jen was devastated by the revelation. She had always sought to shield her son from the harshness of the outside world and had faith in his potential. She now had to face the fact that Will's decisions have put the family as a whole, not just himself, in jeopardy. The debt was more than just figures on a page. It was a symbol of shattered trust, of a son lost to the grip of addiction. The family assembled to face Will. When Jen asked him how this had happened, her voice faltered. Bill's voice was stern and demanding. Defensive and cornered, Will struck out with justifications. He maintained that he could make it right and that the debt would be forgiven with one significant victory. His comments, however, seemed empty. There was no denying the reality. The debt was terrible and genuine. Will Klein's $50,000 gambling debt was already upsetting, but the situation became even more dire when the repercussions were revealed. Overflowed the Klein home's boundaries. Suddenly, what had been a private family conflict was now public knowledge. Tired of waiting for payment, the creditors sued Will. The accusations were obvious. He mistreated his parents during the growing tension, gambled recklessly, and failed to pay back the debt. The litigation was more than just a financial nightmare for Bill Klein and Jen Arnold. It was a humiliation in public. Once praised for their devotion and tenacity, their family was suddenly thrown into scandalous and treacherous headlines. The word got out fast. Details of the case were leaked by confidential sources, and rumors became reports. The small couple's admirers, who had spent years following the family's trip, were taken aback. How could such damaging behavior be attributed to the bright, happy youngster they had witnessed grow up? Under the strain of rumors, the family's reputation started to deteriorate. The aftermath inside the house was intolerable. Jen battled with guilt, thinking whether she had missed whether her silence had permitted the addiction to worsen unchecked for too long. Bill bore the weight of disappointment and rage. Torn between safeguarding his family's reputation and confronting the unpleasant reality of his son's conduct, Will, meantime, felt cornered. His justifications were eliminated by the lawsuit, revealing the reality he had attempted to conceal. He became even more enraged with his parents since he felt they had failed him by not protecting him from the repercussions. However, in practice, they have nothing to do with the litigation. It was the natural outcome of the decisions he had made. An additional depth of suffering was added by the public backlash. Friends removed themselves, frightened of the scandal. Supporters became critical, casting doubt on the family's morals. Openness and honesty had been the cornerstones of Jin and Bill's lives, but now they had to deal with the crushing weight of criticism from strangers who would never fully comprehend the extent of their hardship. A public reckoning began with the case against Will Klein, but nothing compared to the courtroom's ferocity. For Bill Clay and Jin Arnold, entering that room was like entering a nightmare. In front of judges, attorneys, and strangers, their personal suffering was suddenly exposed. Every statement reverberated with consequences in the anxious courtroom. The evidence was offered by the prosecution. An image of a young guy engulfed in addiction was created by the startling $50,000 debt, the internet gambling records, and the testimonies of creditors who had been deceived and left unpaid. He made poor decisions and was hesitant to accept responsibility. Jin listened in silence, her hands shaking. Each detail was a dagger to her heart. Bill, impassive but clearly shaken, continued to stare straight ahead, resolved to put up with the humiliation for his family's sake. The defense attempted to humanize Will when they talked. They maintained that he was not wicked, but lost a young guy imprisoned in the clutches of addiction. Instead of punishment, they begged for rehabilitation and compassion. However, there was no denying the strength of the evidence. The judge's remarks were the last blow. The court determined that the accusations were accurate after considering the matter. Will Klein received a sentence of 5 months in prison with forced rehabilitation and a $55,000 fine. The decision struck a balance between responsibility and the possibility of recovery, and it was firm. For Will, the sentence was shattering. The illusions he had held to were stripped away by the looming reality of incarceration. His defiance became to despair, and his rage to terror. Perhaps for the first time, he understood that addiction had repercussions that were well beyond his control. Jen sobbed in private, her heart divided between relief and grief. Sadness for her beloved son, who has now dealt with the harshness of the legal system. Relief that there might yet be a possibility for redemption through rehabilitation and punishment. Bill didn't waver, but he felt the burden of failure inside and wondered if he might have avoided this. There was more to the courtroom drama than just a legal dispute. It marked the end of denial, the culmination of a family conflict, and accountability started. The sentence signaled the beginning of a new chapter characterized by the difficult road to recovery rather than by conflict and secrecy. Will Klein's fate had been sealed by the court decision. After 5 months in jail, rehabilitation is required. The sentencing was tragic and oddly optimistic for the family. Yes, it was a punishment, but it was also an opportunity. An opportunity for Will to face his issues and start the arduous process of healing. The reality of prison was hard. The walls were chilly, the routines that are inflexible, and the seclusion that is oppressive. The abrupt loss of independence was a devastating blow to a young guy who had been raised in the protective embrace of his family. The monotony of captivity caused days to blend into nights. The silence pushed Will to face himself, naked of excuses, bereft of distractions. He initially resisted. He harbored resentment toward the system, his parents, and everyone save himself. He convinced himself he didn't belong there, that he was misunderstood. Prison, however, has a way of shattering illusions. Surrounded by others who had endured similar downfalls, Will began to see his reflection in their stories. He was not the only one who struggled with addiction. Numerous lives were bound by the chain. Jin Arnold visited when she could, her heart bleeding each time she saw her kid behind bars. She whispered to him that although trust had been betrayed, love had not deserted him. Even though he was quieter, Bill Clay was a dependable figure who provided strength without using words. It was a melancholy visit. Times of intimacy. The reality of their location cast a shadow on them. Rehabilitation started after the prison sentence was over. The change was difficult. Rehab required openness, sensitivity, and a readiness to face suffering head-on. Will first finds it difficult to acknowledge the severity of his addiction. But slowly, via counseling sessions, group therapy, and organized routines, he began to peel back the layers of denial. Rehab was more than just giving up drugs or gambling. Rebuilding identity was the goal. We'll discover how to identify stressors, comprehend the addiction cycle, and discover more healthful coping mechanisms. He started to realize that healing was a lifelong process rather than a destination. For Jen and Bill, watching their kid in rehab was both heartbreaking and hopeful. Painful since they could see the wounds caused by addiction. Hopeful because Will was retaliating for the first time. The wounds were still there even after the storm had passed. Will Klein's struggle through addiction, debt, prison, and rehabilitation left the family forever altered. Nevertheless, there remained room for introspection, an opportunity to rebuild, to recover, and to gain insight from the suffering that had almost destroyed them in the wake of the upheaval. For Jen Arnold, the incident was a reminder of the fragility of even the strongest families. She had always thought that anything could be overcome by love. However, she learned from addiction that love requires honesty, limits, and the guts to face hard realities. Observing her son's struggles was the most agonizing part of her life, but it also demonstrated how strong she was. Bill Klein took his own teachings with him. Although it had been painful, refusing Will's demand for $5,000 turned out to be a pivotal moment. It taught him that sometimes the most difficult decisions are the most important ones, and that enabling was not the same as loving. When everything else seemed to fall apart, his quiet strength served as the family's fulcrum. It was a life-changing experience for Will. His delusions were destroyed by prison, and rehabilitation made him face the truth about his addiction. He discovered that the goal of recovery was to create a future in which his decisions were not influenced by the past, not to erase it. He started to see that accountability was the first step toward liberation rather than punishment. The family's recovery was gradual, characterized by challenging discussions and periods of uncertainty. Trust had been broken, and repairing it took patience. However, with the help of counseling, support groups, and mutual vulnerability, they started to put the pieces of their broken connection. Eventually, the public outcry subsided and was replaced by a more subdued story of perseverance. Once critical fans began to see the family's problem as a reminder that anyone, regardless of wealth or fame, may be affected by addiction. The Kleins proved to be a genuine family rather than a flawless one. Imperfect, afraid, yet unflinching. Reflection brings this chapter to an end. Although addiction had almost killed them, it had also shown how strong they were. Although the lessons were unpleasant, they had a lasting impact. Love, limits, responsibility, and resiliency. These turned become the cornerstones of their recovery. Will Klein's narrative is not only about his fall from grace but also about his potential for salvation. It serves as a reminder that families may find light even in the darkest times and that healing is always possible, even if it takes time. Will Klein's story is about more than just one young man's journey into addiction. It highlights the brittleness of familial ties, the terrible consequences of deception, and the agonizing reality that even the most resilient households can experience disruptions by circumstances outside of their control. From the earliest indications of drug use to the quiet gambling spiral, the explosive altercation with his father, the devastating debt disclosure, the public backlash, and ultimately the judicial punishment that resulted in his incarceration and recovery, we have followed Will's journey. Each episode showed the resiliency of a family striving to maintain love in the face of betrayal and hopelessness, in addition to the effects of addiction. The agonizing realization of Jen Arnold, Bill. We are reminded of a universal truth by Klein's refusal to support harmful behaviors and Will's final encounter with responsibility. Addiction is more than a personal struggle. It is a human struggle, a family struggle, and a community struggle. And the questions still stand when this story's credits roll. If a loved one sought money to support an addiction, how would you respond? Even if it meant confronting their rage, would you have the courage to refuse? To what extent should families be held accountable? When an addiction becomes unmanageable? Do scars last a lifetime, or can rehabilitation actually cure the wounds left behind? The dilemma of whether love is sufficient to save someone who refuses to be saved is arguably the most troubling of all. This is not only the tale of Will Klein. It serves as a warning to all families, parents, and kids. There is no distinction in addiction. It has the ability to enter any house, into any life, and to leave destruction in its wake. However, it also serves as a reminder of responsibility, limits, and the secret to survival is resilience. What lessons can we learn from the client's difficulties as you consider this journey? How can we defend ourselves, our communities, and our families against the unseen dangers of gambling and addiction? The discussion must go on even though the answers are not straightforward. This has been Will CLA's secret story, one of failure, conflict, and the flimsy hope of salvation. It is now up to you to respond to the question. Additional updates. The young couple's mustache will be cleaned with 15 rocks. For a big event, Will Klein goes all out, and the small couple asks followers for support. Why? Will and Zoe hear about Jen Arnold's depressing day. I'll tell you all about it. A video was recently shared on social media by fans of Dr. Jennifer Arnold, star of Little Couple. Fans saw that her kid Will Klein was growing up during a special celebration. Many individuals also left good wishes for the family in the comments area. The first run of the Little Couple lasted from 2009 until 2019. Both neonatologist Dr. Jennifer Arnold. The TLC documentary introduced viewers to skeletal dysplasia patients and businessman Bill Klein. Music. The couple was originally presented to viewers in the Little People Just Married special. In 2013, the couple's family grew by 2. They adopted Will, their son, from China in March. The next October, Zoe, their daughter, was adopted from India. For years after the original series ended, fans continued to communicate with the family through social media. Just now, one participant made a noteworthy achievement. In honor of Will's 15th birthday, Jennifer just shared a video of him on Instagram. She wrote in the description, "Another birthday in the books. Will Klein 63. I can't believe you're 15. Your development into a kind, jovial, kind, and intelligent young guy makes us really pleased." In the video, the family sings happy birthday to Will while standing in front of a cake with 15 candles. Zoe said the happy moment was caught on camera right before they unwrapped their presents. Will's growing older. Fans who have seen him grow over the years noticed his appearance. It was interesting to note that Will had a new mustache. Those who follow Jennifer on Instagram will find this particularly noteworthy. In the end, she shares old photos and videos of her family from time to time. Will received a lot of birthday greetings in the comments area. Many others talked about how time had passed and how they had watched the family over the years. The following were some comments. Sheesh. He's 15 now, and I remember seeing him when I was younger. Time flies by. William, happy birthday. He said, cake cake. Happy birthday, Will. Happy birthday. Your age of 15 seems unbelievable to Will. I remember being thrilled for you and knowing how much you were and have been loved when your parents came to get you. God bless you constantly. I hope you have an amazing birthday, Will. A guy is coming out of you. Greetings and congratulations to your sister and parents. 15. Past? He has grown into a very attractive young man. Happy 15th birthday, Will. I hope your parents and Zoe spoil you. Will, I hope you have an incredible year. The little couple Will Klein goes all out for a big event. Will Clay, one of the members of the little couple, recently went all out for a major event. Why was he the center of attention then? Fans of the little couple have seen Will and Zoe Klein mature greatly since their last televised appearance. Families progress from their time in Florida to their current home in Boston. Many of Jen Arnold's admirers appreciate that she updates them on the latest news involving the little couple family. As a teenager now, Will partakes in many of the same activities that other teens do. Will Klein and the rest of the little couple family are avid sports fans, which is one thing about the Arnold/Klein home. At a recent baseball game between the Tampa Bay Rays at Tropicana Field, Will went all out. Will had on. Even though they currently call Boston home, Jen Arnold, Bill, Will, and Zoe Klein all consider Florida to be an extended family. Going back to visit relatives or the beach is something they do frequently. Will Klein captioned the photo with me and my cousins wearing Flappy Boy hoodies at a Tampa Bay Rays game having fun, and he also shared a photo of his cousins wearing the hoodie accompanied by them. Vacation somewhere in mind, such as Florida, so you can escape the cold, unwind on the beach, or more recently, attend a baseball game. The fun didn't end with Will Klein and his cousins. Even though they didn't dress as fancy as Will and his relatives, it seems like they had a good time. Jen Arnold and Bill Klein also joined in on the fun, apparently drawn by the excitement and atmosphere of a live baseball game. Although there have been a lot of changes since moving to Boston, fans still enjoy keeping up with their antics, and watching fun highlights like these is preferable to not being able to watch the family show at all. Most fans believe that Will Klein, one of the little couple, is asking for help from his supporters on social media. Why did he reach out to TLC viewers, and what is wrong with him? Will Clay, who was adopted from China by Jen Arnold and Bill Clay, is much older now than he was when the TLC show first started, and his growth over the years is something that devoted fans truly love to witness. The little couple family recently celebrated Will Klein's 14th birthday by taking him to New York City. Will loves to travel, and since Boston and New York City are now relatively close, Will seems to have a great time there. Is taking many small steps to become his own person now that he is a teenager. His most recent social media venture is an example of how he is accomplishing this goal. Will Clay owns a YouTube channel, Instagram, and TikTok. Previously, the only trustworthy source of regular information about the small couple family was following Jen Arnold's social media posts. Bill Klein is also active on social media, but his posts are much less frequent than his wife's. As a result of Will's inclusion, viewers will have even more reasons to keep watching. Despite the fact that their beloved show is no longer airing, Will Klein has almost 10,000 followers on Instagram, and he recently appealed to his growing fan base for help by asking them to vote on whether or not his parents should buy him earrings. They could say yes or no. Oh, earrings could be a great way for Will Clay to experiment with his style and express. One little couple admirer said, "All you need are a pair of magnetic stud earrings." Many readers of the little couple were pleased to oblige Will Klein with sage counsel as he considers this choice. While some of Will's supporters felt he shouldn't have them, others were overjoyed. One admirer said, "Then you may assess the aesthetic and determine whether it's right for you without worrying about fixing the hole." The little couple Jen Arnold shares a sad day with Will and Zoe. Jen Arnold, a cast member of the little couple, recently talked about having a difficult day with her kids, Will and Zoe Klein. What happened with this TLC family to completely ruin their relationship? Yes, get your point across. Will seems to have found a community of encouraging followers on social media despite the fact that it can be a cruel place. It will be interesting to observe if he follows the suggestion and gets earrings. Day? Jen Arnold and Bill Klein recently visited the Nine Elephants Memorial with Will and Zoe. The world and America will always remember the tragedy of September 11, 2001, but it is much more personal to Jen Arnold because she lost an uncle on that day. While at the memorial, Jen Arnold took a moment to reflect and honor Uncle Dennis M. Carey Sr., the relative she lost. One may imagine pizza, a Broadway performance, or a variety of other activities in the famous metropolis. When considering a trip to New York metropolis, Bill Klein and Jen Arnold brought their kids to the Nine Elephants Memorial to ensure they understood what had happened there. They also used it as a moment to honor the deceased family member. On social media, Jen Arnold, a cast member of the little couple, posted a brief video of herself and her kids strolling around the memorial. Jen shared The World Trade Center complex includes the National September 11th Memorial and Museum, which was built to honor those who perished in the 1993 attack and on that day in 2001. The memorial and museum is situated on 8 of the original World Trade Center complexes and spans 16 acres. One of the site's features is a pair of acre-sized lakes that represent the Old North and South. She shared a video of her children visiting the site with her and Bill and said the experience was incredibly moving. Every name of the victims of the 1993 terrorist attack and the 9 Elephants terror strike is inscribed in bronze, according to the official website. Many of Jen Arnold's fans have commented on her recent video from the monument, sharing their own thoughts about their own visit. One fan of the little couple said, "I cried the whole time I visited. Every American should, in my opinion, visit this memorial." Although Jen Arnold may not have provided fans of the young couple with the typical upbeat NYC update, this is still an important one. Many of Jen's fans are pleased that she let Will and Zoe go. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Please share your thoughts in the comments section and subscribe to our channel to receive more updates like this. Thank you.